Hi, marketing girlies. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing Girly by Sky Society. And today we're talking all about marketing resumes. I'm going to walk you girls through a step by step guide to have a little resume glow up to help you stand out more on your job applications and just give it a little bit of a refresh because sometimes it's good to mix up what we're doing and avoid a lot of mistakes that I see a lot. I love recording episodes about application materials around times where Sky Society is hiring. So right now, Sky Society, we're currently hiring just because I get to see an influx of hundreds of resumes, and I feel like it always gives me more perspective on what we teach. A lot of the fundamentals I'm going to go over today are stuff that I've been teaching for years, stuff that is part of Sky Society Accelerator, which is our marketing bootcamp for women. This is not necessarily anything that's new, but it's things that I'm seeing happen a lot in resumes right now that I've been reviewing, mistakes I'm being seeing made that are super avoidable and super easy to change. So I'm going to go through a lot of stuff today on resumes. I know resumes are obviously something that people have lots of varying opinions on. I know, especially if you are trying to get resume advice from friends, from family, from social media, it seems like people are giving conflicting advice all over the place. And so with that said, I'm just going to share some founding principles on how to think about your resume, things that I personally think are important. And this is how we teach resumes at Sky Society. This is just like a glimpse of what we teach in Sky Society Accelerator, but these are just some great, super easy changes that you can hopefully go and make right after listening to this episode. That should only take you a couple of hours, but that should have very, very big impact on your job search. I'm going to speak as if you are somebody who is almost done with college or has completed college or are later in your career. So, if you are a younger marketing girly, this advice might not all apply to you. Most of what I'm saying are for my marketing girlies that are exploring early career opportunities, or you are a couple years or more established in your marketing career, anywhere between that like 0 to 10 years of experience. That's who I'm speaking to today. Once you get above 10 years of experience, the way you look at resumes is completely different. And if you are brand new, you're a freshman in college, some of the ways you're going to look at resumes are also going to be a bit different. There are so many nuances in resumes. I'm a really big believer that there's not a one size fits all when it comes to editing your resume, and it requires being able to make decisions that are best for you based off of your unique experience and your specific career goals, which obviously I can't talk to each of you listening to today's episode. So take what you need, be open minded, and I'm just excited to chat about this. I feel like resumes are such an area of opportunity to really stand out because, again, I see a lot of the same mistakes get made over and over again. So let's just jump in. I'm going to start with a mistake that I see made all of the time, which is that your resume does not match your LinkedIn profile. And this is my biggest pet peeve when I'm looking at resumes and I see your most recent position is still open. It says you currently work there. But if I click on your LinkedIn, it says that you don't work there or the dates are mismatching. To me, this is almost like a lie right up front. And it makes me not really trust what I'm seeing on your resume when I notice that you haven't updated it or it just doesn't match what's on your LinkedIn. So, if you are applying to jobs right now, please make sure that your resume experience, the dates, the job titles matches what is on your LinkedIn profile. Otherwise, it's coming off as dishonest or messy. And it is, again, just such an easy fix. So, one quick thing there. Okay, we're going to get that out of the way just because I've been seeing that so much. The next is what to put in your header. I see headers on resumes vary a lot, but this is kind of going to be your guide for what you actually need in your header. So first, you need your full name in there. It needs to be large. You need your full name. Underneath, you want to have your email. Ideally, not your school email and not an email that you made when you were in high school. I always joke that my very first email that I ever made, this is actually not a joke, this is a real thing. My email was natsoccerchick@aol.com. And later on in my career, I made a more professional email to apply to resumes. So if that's you, if you're still using that email that you made when you were a kid, that's not super professional, go make a new email. You should ideally have a Gmail account, not like an iCloud email, not your school email. Go make a nice professional email. Go change your photo on that email, make sure it's good. I'm getting sidetracked, but you want your email there. You want your LinkedIn profile. Please go clean up your URL. You can create a custom URL profile for free. It takes 2 seconds. Too many times I see somebody link their LinkedIn profile URL and it says linkedin.com/in/ your name and then like 20 different numbers because you didn't go in and customize your own URL. You can make your URL anything you want. So mine is linkedin.com/in/ Natalie. Super clean, super professional. Go clean up your LinkedIn URL. It's super easy. You want to have your phone number in there. And then you want to have the city that you're applying to jobs in or the city that you're located, not your address. You don't need to put your personal address in there. There's no need for that, but you can go ahead and put your city. If you are applying to jobs all over the country, like you're just applying everywhere, you don't need to have your city, but I think it's really great if you are applying to jobs where you live to have your city, or if you're trying to move, let's say you live in Alabama, but you're trying to move to New York, I would put New York as your city on your resume. Or if you live in Austin, for example, like me, and you're applying to jobs in Austin, you can have Austin, Texas there in your header. Okay. And the last thing is you should have a link to your marketing portfolio. So many girls are missing this opportunity. Obviously, in our accelerator, all of our girls graduate with a marketing portfolio. So we all have them link their marketing portfolios in their header. This is a great tip to have your marketing portfolio in your header, really clear, really easy to click. That way you are just really putting your marketing portfolio everywhere so that more people can see it. Okay. Some easy things there you can do to really make sure that the impact you are making with your header is really strong. Okay, let's move on to some things that you should be taking off of your resume. Okay, usually the problem isn't that you need to add more things to your resume, it's that you have things on there that don't need to be there. So, some things that I want you to take off: anything from high school. Nothing from high school should be on your resume. Okay, we're taking all of that off. Relevant coursework. You do not need to go list every single class you took in marketing. I do not need to see that. If you want, on LinkedIn, there is a relevant coursework section you could add to your LinkedIn profile. Add it there. You do not need it in your resume. I do not need to see your sorority or club college involvement. The exception is if you are currently in college, that's fine to have it, but otherwise you should take it off. The only exception is if you had some sort of leadership role and you want to have that leadership role there, then that's okay, especially if your leadership role is related to marketing. Like, let's say you were like the marketing chair of your sorority, then you can have that there. Otherwise, it doesn't need to be there, or it can be a very small bullet in another section of your resume, but it doesn't need to be its own thing. Taking all that off. We're taking off volunteering. The only exception for keeping volunteering on your resume is if you have done something for a very long time and it is a very significant part of who you are. If you just volunteered for one summer in college, it is not important enough to put on your resume. Again, LinkedIn, all the stuff that I'm making you take off your resume, add it to your LinkedIn. But the only reason volunteering should be on there is if maybe you've been volunteering at the same place for 6 years and maybe you are, again, a leadership position there and it's a huge part of who you are. Otherwise, take it off. My best advice to ask yourself of like, should I keep this on my resume or should I take it off is, would I want to talk about this in an interview? And if I did talk about this in an interview, would this make me better qualified for this role? Or would this add value as a candidate for me? Okay. So, do you want to talk about that in your interview? Okay. Anything on your resume, ask yourself, do I want to talk about this in my interview? And would it make me better qualified for the role? Another thing girls ask me all the time is, should I have my study abroad experience on my resume? Well, I would ask you, do you want to bring that up in your interview? Do you feel like it's relevant to making you more qualified for the job? I can't answer that for all of you. I think it's a case by case basis, but I think that's a great rule of thumb on whether or not to be adding things to your resume. This also applies for non-marketing roles. I always get asked, should I have experience on my resume if it's non-marketing related? I think it's great to have roles that are non-marketing related. It's great to have diverse experience to show what you've done. I think non-marketing experience can definitely add to you. However, there are certain cases where it might not. And again, just ask yourself that question and that will help you a lot. Okay, so we're cleaning it up. We're cleaning out our resume. We're doing some spring cleaning. We're taking things out because we want to have just the most important, most impactful stuff on our resume. Okay, moving on to a little bit of a hot take that I have is that bullet points should only be one line. And one line only. I see a lot of people have bullet points that are multiple lines, and especially if you are early in your career, there is no need for that. Usually, when somebody has a bullet point that's 2 or 3 lines, they're just not writing concise enough. They have filler words in there, they have fluff. You're probably using thesaurus.com. I don't know if anybody still uses thesaurus.com now that we have Google and ChatGPT, but that used to be me. I want your bullet points to be one line. The reason is because recruiters skim. They do not actually read everything at first glance, they're skimming. And if you have each bullet point touch on a different area of your work experience, and each bullet point starts with a different action verb, that is going to be really impactful for an interview for a recruiter to be able to understand quickly the work that you have done. Sometimes there are exceptions where a bullet will need to be 2 lines. However, I think you should try to have most of yours be one line because, again, usually when I see somebody have longer bullets, they're just not doing a great job at being concise with what they say, and they have filler words in there. Again, there are definitely cases where your bullet will be more than one line. I just want you to be super mindful of, am I saying this in the most efficient way possible? Is it really easy to understand? And for somebody who's skimming my resume, is it really easy for them to consume this information and understand my experience in an easy way? All right. This is usually a really big change, and your resume is going to start to get a little bit shorter here, which is great because this is going to bring me to my next point, which is that your resume should only be one page. There is zero reason for your resume to be any longer than one page unless you have over 10 years of work experience. Okay. It should be one page. And your font size should never be smaller than 10. Okay. Don't go say, all right, I heard Natalie's advice. She said it can't be longer than one page. Let me go make my font size 5 because on my giant monitor, it looks great. Okay. Your font size should never be smaller than 10. A good test is to print out your resume. Does it look eligible? Actually try printing it out. There are lots of things to make your resume fit. If you're like, well, my resume is barely over a page. We talked about cleaning up some things. You can mess around with line spacing, with your margins, with different fonts. Sometimes fonts just inherently are a bit smaller than others or have a bit wider or thinner letters than others. So make sure your resume is one page. And the real check is to download your resume as a PDF because sometimes your resume looks like it's one page, but when you actually download it and you go to submit it, it's 2 pages and the formatting gets changed. So actually download it as a PDF, look at that PDF, make sure that PDF is one page. If you're having issues with it being one page when you download it because the formatting's getting messed up, try different browsers. Sometimes I've had girls tell me that Safari will work better than Chrome, or just test it, email it to friends, make sure that it actually is one page. And then key tip here, I got this from one of my Marketing Girly podcast guests, is when you download your resume, rename it. Because sometimes when you download your resume, it might say resume in parentheses 72 because you downloaded your resume a bajillion times. Rename your resume to be your first and last name and bonus points for the job description. So that way it's really clear if a recruiter is downloading your resume. It makes it a lot easier. I got this tip from a recruiter who said that she looks at lots of resumes and she always appreciates when a candidate actually renames the file of their resume to have their name in it. It makes it a lot easier for her to sort them. All right. All really easy, quick changes. Moving on to another really important one, which is to add quantifiable results. Every single one of your work experiences should have 2 to 3 quantifiable results. I am super, super big on this. If you hear me talk about marketing experience, I'm really big on my marketing girlies getting hard skills and real quantifiable results. Again, this is all what the accelerator curriculum is built on at Sky Society is getting quantifiable results because they are so important. And because I love my creative marketing girlies, you girls are the best. However, sometimes you forget to quantify your impact and you absolutely can. Each of your experiences, I want you to have 3 actual numbers. You're not going to write out the number. So if the number is 2, you're not going to write out TWO. You're going to put the actual digit 2. Okay? That's how you do resumes because you want your numbers to stand out. If you're like, okay, well, Natalie, I did not really track my impact that much at past roles. Can't really think of anything that I can quantify for my resume. Try to quantify anything you can. So an example would be, let's say you helped with events. How many events did you host a month or a quarter or a year? About how many people attended those events? If you did social media, but you don't really remember the engagement or impact on those posts, how many times did you post a week? Okay, did you post 4 times a week? That number is not as impactful as an actual KPI or quantifiable result from a campaign. However, it's better than nothing. And numbers always, always stand out. And especially if you want to work in a field like social media where most people lean heavily creative, you can balance out your creativity with understanding that hard skills and quantifiable impact is truly what matters, especially when having real business impact. Your resume is going to stand out so much more. Okay. So figure out what you can quantify, dig back into your experience, see what results you can come up with because that is going to help a lot. And make sure your results are real. Don't just guess and be like, I think I improved follower growth by 50%. It is usually pretty easy to identify when somebody's just like trying to put percentages where they make sense and they're not actually real. Okay. The more specific the metric, the more believable. So actually go find that real data and be specific with it. And this is going to help you so, so, so much. Okay. Now, on to one of my favorite tips for resumes. So, do all there's again so much that goes into resume editing. We're not even touching on how to like format or write about your work experience because that's a whole nother beast. I just kind of wanted to give you girls some things that you can do to like quickly give your resume a little glow up. But one really big thing that you can do is use ChatGPT to add in relevant keywords. You can use any AI. I'm just going to say ChatGPT because it's free and the most readily available. I want you to go to LinkedIn and I want you to find 5 jobs that you really like and that maybe 5 jobs that you have applied to recently or 5 jobs that you're planning on applying to and copy and paste those job descriptions into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT for the most frequently mentioned skills or keywords that those job descriptions have in order and have ChatGPT tell you the number of times each skill or keyword was mentioned throughout the job descriptions. And you'll get to see maybe the word collaboration was used 12 times across your 5 uh, most desirable jobs that you found on LinkedIn. And I want you to then go to your resume and see how many times you have the word collaboration on your resume. And I want you to look at all of those skills that ChatGPT told you are really frequent in the job descriptions that you find desirable for the jobs that you want. And I want you to go and add those keywords into your resume exactly as they are. So, for example, let's say that the key skill is collaborations, that maybe you say collaborative in your resume, try to be as close as possible to the actual word that ChatGPT is telling you or whatever AI is telling you. And this is just such an easy way to help your resume be more targeted and have more of the skills. You can even ask ChatGPT to list out the specific hard skills, specific softwares that you know what softwares you should go learn and get certified in. And this is, again, just a great starting point. You can do it with 5 jobs, you can do it with 10 jobs. I love this activity. And if you want to take it a step further, you can do this for each individual job you're applying to. There are a lot of AI tools that also do this. However, I want to give free options in today's episode. So that's why I'm talking about ChatGPT, but there are definitely resume AI tools out there that can help with this. But we can all go to ChatGPT, we can all copy paste a job description in there and ask ChatGPT to give us the keywords or the hard skills that are most frequently used in that job description. And that is a super, super helpful way to stand out when you're applying to jobs. All right. Other than these little actionable tips, one thing to think about when writing your bullet points, again, I'm not going to touch on that because maybe we'll have to make that an entirely another episode. But one thing to think about when you're writing your bullet points is really talking about the impact that you had and not just what you did. I think sometimes we get in the habit of describing our activities, like the day-to-day activities, and we forget to actually talk about the impact that we had on that role. And that's where those metrics and numbers really, really come in handy. And those are things I want you to think about. One big takeaway you can take from today's episode, aside from the tips I've given you, is to really think about your current job and all future ones a bit differently, and that you want to be able to, in real time, track what you're doing so you can build a more powerful resume. This also applies for your portfolio. Usually, what I hear when I'm talking to girls, especially a lot of girls in the accelerator, they're like, this is just for everybody, right? I don't really remember what I did at that job 3 years ago. I wasn't tracking it. So this is your reminder to start tracking what you're doing, start tracking your impact. Even if you love the job and you don't want to leave, it's still good practice to keep your resume up to date Also, it's good practice to track your impact, your business impact, because when you go in for a raise, you can show how you had direct positive impact on the company. And that is going to be great leverage for you, right? And it's also a great thing. Like, here's everything I did this year and the impact that it had. So, tracking it is great if you want to stay at the company. Tracking it is great if you eventually want to leave. It's just really, really good practice. So, I hope you take that as an act of take that as a good practice going forward from today's episode. And I also hope you found a lot of these tips super helpful. Again, doing some of these small changes can have a really, really big impact for your resume. Oh, I'll actually say and add in one last thing. Please proofread your resume. It's also really frustrating when I see grammar errors. You can go use Grammarly. It's free. You can go ask ChatGPT. I love to put my resume in ChatGPT and you can just say, tell me my grammar and spelling errors and how to fix them. Um, it is just, again, a little bit messy, sloppy when I see those errors. So hopefully today was helpful. There's so much that goes into resumes. I love all the nuances of them. It is such a fun thing to work on, and it's such a great feeling when you feel super proud and confident in the resume that you are submitting. And I hope today's episode you found to be super actionable. I see a lot of you girls posting your resumes in our Sky Society Marketing Girly LinkedIn group. If you're not in our LinkedIn group for women in marketing, there are, at the time of this episode, over 35,000 marketing girlies in that LinkedIn group. It's completely free to join. It's pinned on my personal LinkedIn profile. So make sure you go join that. There's a lot of amazing support there as well for your resumes. And again, you also can always apply to Sky Society Accelerator. I will be back next week with an amazing guest to share with you girls. And as always, I am taking requests for more solo episodes. So if you have any ideas, please let me know. But that wraps up today's episode. I hope you have an amazing rest of your evening. And I will see you girls next Tuesday.